have a speech by a keynote speaker, Shri Anirudha Ji. Anirudha Ji, if you can.
Respected Chief Guest, Dr. Shri Sridhar Vembu, respected Sanghachalak-Chennai Mahanagar, Chandrasekar Ji, respected dignitaries sitting in the audience, and my young friends who are representing the young intelligentsia of our country, brothers and sisters. After listening to Shri Dr. Vembu, I thought that what should be my emphasis when speaking to you? Because Sridhar Ji has very pinpointedly made the judgment of the issues and problems that our country is facing at present. There were the days that everybody was admiring globalization. People were thinking that globalization is the key to success for all the issues and all the problems of this country. Nothing is bad in globalization. We have several opportunities and chances in the process of globalization, but globalization on our terms. Sir, I remember that the issue of agriculture subsidies on the platform of World Trade Organization has not been solved so far. Why? Because big countries like America wanted their hold on it and dominance on it. Was the globalization expected to end in this conclusion? Certainly not. So I picked up a point from his speech that this may be the requirement of today also. Today also we may require to think over it very seriously. Once Mahatma Gandhi was asked a question that how do you define Swadeshi? This country first, that speaks of Swadeshi. Mahatma Gandhi described it in a very simple way as was his own nature. He said, what is available nearest is Swadeshi. If that is available at your place, purchase it. Not available, go to Tehsil, go to district, and gradually go to international market, doesn't matter. But don't jump on the international market unless we cross these things first. But all the wheels have been turned exactly in the reverse direction. And a series of problems have come before us. Organizers of this speech has very rightly chosen the topic for the speech. It's a very vast topic. I won't be able to cover it in 20 minutes or 25 minutes, and that is not my capacity also to dwell on all these issues which come out of how the resurgent Bharat is going to be in the near future. Whenever we speak of resurgence, naturally it is a progressive development, a leap forward. What we are at present and what we want to be in future, that needs some resurgence, and resurgence is always a continuous process to my mind. Resurgence doesn't stop at a particular point. It's a collective will of our nation, collective will of our society, that what is to be called resurgence. putting our country first is a baseline for the resurgence. And therefore it is Resurgent Bharat. Etad desha prasutasya sakashat agrajanmana swam samcharitram shiksharam prithvivyam sarvamanava. Why to put Bharat before us? Because it has all the capacities of resurgence, and at the same time it has the philosophy of we are the sons of this land, and it is our responsibility to reach that land, that motherland, to the extreme glory of it. Param Vaibhavam Netu Metat Swarashtra. So once we utter the word Bharat, a source of information we find in it. We find that our emotional ties are there with the concept of Bharat. The main purpose of Resurgence Bharat is not only the material development. Bharat is known in the world not only for material development but for so many things related to the spiritual development of it. Spirituality is not something to be always considered in a very so-called traditional way. Spirituality is development of our mind. And therefore we find today also that spirituality is a part of the psyche, part of the mindset of our people. And therefore resurgence in Bharat, that resurgence is in spiritual development also. That spiritual development which teaches us to help others, to see the sorrows and joys in the joys and the sorrows of others. And that is the crux of the matter that we have in the process of this Resurgent Bharat. But at the same time, there are some references to the present context about the Resurgence Bharat. I am going to touch upon few of them so that we can get an idea that how resurgence at present can also be undertaken. First of all, that appeals to my mind is our demographic dividend. Much has been spoken, much has been written on demographic dividend, that our country is going to be the country of youth. Average age will be 35 or less than 35. 65%, 75% of the population will be belonging to this class of age. So such a fantastic energy is in our hands. How to utilize it is to be decided and is to be churned in the discussions like this. On the one hand, we are saying that we have a fantastic energy, tremendous energy with us. Energy not only physically, mental energy, ideas, new brands, new concepts, putting some models before the world, doing something which is highly exemplary. That is the challenge that we have, and we have a potential which other countries do not have, and that is about the demographic dividend. And this demographic dividend has to be encashed, capitalized in the right way by giving job and work to the hands of youth, to the people, to give them good education, to give them what we have, aspirational youth, that term is being popularized these days. That youth has its own aspirations. Are we capable of fulfilling those aspirations and giving a positive response to those aspirations? These are the questions that come before us after saying that we have a resurgent Bharat due to the demographic dividend. Though we are passing through an economic slowdown and much has been referred by Sridhar Ji to the economic issues of our country, we are the fastest growing economy in the world at present. This economic slowdown problem may go away in a shorter way, maybe a cyclical, maybe a temporary thing, but the ultimate challenge from economics point of view, that are we going to use our own resources to become self-sufficient, self-reliant? And this self-reliance is naturally a big question before us. We were talking about the role of agriculture, which is the basis of our economy, which is the crux of the matter of our economics, that is being neglected most. You cannot depend on service industries for a long period, because unless the manufacturing and agriculture is sound, the service industries will not get a job. So we have more than 55%, 58% GDP by way of service industries, but the service industries may not survive if the manufacturing and agriculture do not support them. It's a very simple thing, anybody can say. This doesn't require a great economist to come. Here only we find that the problems lie. And those problems are to be solved through one process, I believe, being a member of the teaching fraternity, that it can be solved by education. And there also we have a big thing to deal with. As I said, that the present context is also useful for describing the situation today. The gross enrollment ratio. You must have heard about it. The present gross enrollment ratio of our country is highest one. It is the matter of most satisfaction for us. 95% enrollment ratio is at primary level. Gradually it will come to university level. Maybe the result of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, maybe the result of some other movements that government made. Primary level 95-96%, secondary level 93%, higher secondary level more than 87%, and at the collegiate level at present is 35%, but aimed by new education policy to reach more than 55% in 2024. Sridhar Ji, I have a problem that what to do with this educated, so-called educated youth. It's a combination. That we have demographic dividend on the one hand, and we have a problem of educated youth on the other hand. That educated youth who doesn't like to work in farm, work in agriculture. That demographic dividend which doesn't want to work with so-called non-prestigious jobs. May not be on a large scale, but the sons of farmers and agriculturists are not getting good wives. That has been a social issue. We cannot neglect it. We cannot ignore it. So for the welfare of the country, we have a good human resource, but education, it is becoming commercial. Education has become a commodity, and in the private management, when we handed over education to them, the problem has come of a great divide in the society. Excuse me, I am using a very harsh word. It's a great divide. Those who can afford will take better education. Those who don't afford, in spite of having good talent with them, will be deprived of it. This is going to be the natural consequence of it. And if this is so, are we going to call it growth and development? In economics, we teach that every growth is not development, every development may be a growth. This is a growth, but I am personally not ready to call it development. And this distinction between growth and development leads to some other problems also. Some other problems are there, like migration from urban to rural. I was reading the Human Development Index report the other day, and I chose the pages related to Maharashtra. Being a Maharashtrian, my interest was naturally there. And I saw in last 10 years, the rate of migration from rural to urban in Maharashtra went up by 18%. If for 18% rate just 10 years are sufficient, where are we going? So on the one hand it is demographic dividend, on the one hand it is spread of education, and on the other hand we find that this migratory character, our new education policy by talking about this migrated population says that in 2024 it should be 350 million going to urban from rural, 350 million, 35 crore. So development is there, growth is there, at the same time some challenges are also there. Definitely we are the best in national security. Our Balakot and all these things make us very proud of our army. Very good, naturally. And that has created a different psychological impact among all Indians. That is, we won it, ultimately we won it. And we taught a lesson to Pakistan. But when China and Pakistan come together, the problem which does not exist before becomes grave, and that becomes a challenge for us. So the Resurgent Barath is there on one count because on the international diaspora, the prestige of our country has definitely risen. Our Prime Minister visiting all the countries and getting a very, very encouraging welcome, converting it into some commercial schemes and some other schemes also. It is really a matter of satisfaction for us. Thirdly, I would like to say that this international diaspora and all these things are there, they are the resurgent, indicating the resurgent India. Spiritually also our people are turning to several aspects, that our yoga has gone on the international level. More than 120 countries unanimously supported it. In the United Nations, people wanted to have this Indian science. Within the country and outside the country, we find that there is attraction towards the spiritual leaders. They are doing a lot of service to society. Maybe Isha Foundation, maybe Mata Amrutanandimai, maybe Shri Ravi Shankar, maybe Jaggi Vasudev. These all spiritual leaders are giving a great chunk of knowledge and satisfaction to our society. So not only material development we can think about, this is spiritual development also. But the problems are there. On the political front, we find that several new initiatives have come. I find out the crux out of those initiatives that in the resurgent India, the democratization process is being strengthened because public participation has increased a lot. We didn't imagine that 9 crore people from our population will leave their subsidies on LPG, and by using that amount of the subsidies, poor people will be given the gas connections. Is it not a model to the world? Is it not the best example that can be repeated? I find that the resurgence lies here. Many of the schemes are going to stay, irrespective of whether this government is in power or other government is coming in power. Like Janadana Yojana, I asked a sister working in my home as a maid servant that which schemes do you know? I was in a mood that if she doesn't know, I will give some money, ask her to take the benefit of it. She said that I have a Janadana account. She said that I have an insurance policy with the help of the government. She had everything that the government introduced for public participation. Ayushman Yojana is there. I am not appreciating it from a political point of view, not at all. But if the political government thinks of resurgence, it can do that. Government has a great role in resurgence of our country. We should not depend upon it. That is not the only key to open the lock. But along with them, these are the things that we witness a sea change in the mind of the people. We are always appreciating education, but find that what kind of this new generation of kids we want to make. I insist on a simple point, and that I relate it to the resurgence also, otherwise the backward resurgence or non-negative effects will be there. In Sangha we have been insisting on having a mother tongue as a medium of education, at least at till the primary level of education. Many people have criticized that it's a backward stage. You are taking the society to the reverse of it. English is a world language. And English as a language, everybody should study. No problem in it. Why only English? Only 10 more languages. But unless our young generation, the coming generation, doesn't understand the local references, I ask a question to my mind that if my grandson doesn't know Marathi, how will he read Gnaneshwari? How will he come to know Samartha Ramdas? How will he come to know Tukaram? How will he come to know Tiruvalluvar? And that is the challenge which leads to the resurgent India. And that resurgent India is in our dreams, and we should do that. Before I go to the role of RSS, because my time, I am watching it, that this value system in education is very important. I have been a member of some advisory nature of committees for the new education policy. I am really very sure that this new education policy is going to be a milestone in the process of social reforms and educational reforms as well. A very good new education policy has been drafted. It's going to give a good direction to our society. I would call it as a part of the Resurgent Barath. How far it will be accepted and brought into practice, I don't know. But there we have seen that a boy or a girl should be able to learn at least 3 languages. His mother tongue, English, and the third, any language of his choice. Naturally, it should be Bharatiya. I don't say that Sanskrit will see the golden days. That will be there. But can't a son or a daughter of us know 3, 4, 5 languages? I was there having tea in one of our friend's house. His daughter knows 7 languages. She is just 11 or 12 years old. Cannot be done in families. I think we have to go to the basics of it. Several basics, we have to fundamentals, we have to go back. And whenever there is some transforms or chaotic conditions even, always our ancestors and our forefathers have been advising us to go to the basics. While going to the basics, we have to keep the present days and the principles of it as well. When this topic was given to me, the half part of the topic is resurgence is one, and the other is what are the challenges. To prepare a list of challenges is the easiest job, because we have been experiencing it and we have been discussing it at several places. But in our society, the small identities are coming up, and those small identities are making themselves so strong that identity is not to be blamed. Because of identity, separatism is created, that is to be blamed. I never expected in Maharashtra that the social reformer like Sant Basveshwar will be utilized for the caste war. What was expected and what we are doing? To create the small identities, playing the politics with those small identities and getting our selfish interest satisfied. We cannot ignore, though it may be in the initial stage, but it will not take more time to get in a very bad shape. Polarization is very strong in our country. Either you have to be belonging to this pole or you have to be belonging to this pole. This polarization has lost the sense of rationality among our society. Intolerance is becoming acceptable, that if you want to be there, there has to be tolerance. No need to teach tolerance to Bharatiya people. But intolerance we are finding everywhere. Samajik samarasata has been the basic value. Social harmony. That disharmony is a big problem. In respect of the Resurgent Barath, the development that our women have made in the society is admired everywhere. From the space technology to educational institutions. Women power is playing a great role. Nobody can justify the gender inequality, at least on paper. Gradually it will be by mind also. So the gender equality has been accepted as a basic principle, as a value, and it will grow in a natural way also. But at the same time, every day in the newspapers, on an average, you will find minimum 10 news of rape on women. Lack of safety. Several things, even a small kid of 7-8 years, that girl is also becoming a victim of this ugly practice. So many issues are there, but the Resurgent Barath has solutions and keys to that also. Environmental issues are there. On the one hand, we are making a lot of progress on improving our environment. Mahatma Gandhi used to say that we have enough to satisfy needs of the people, but we don't have more to satisfy greed of the people. And this greed of the people has created tremendous problems related to environment. Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay used to say that Prakriti ka dohan karo, Prakriti ka shoshan mat karo, do not exploit the nature, milk the nature. Milking of nature is essential. All the ice caps are getting melted and sea levels are increasing. A very serious threat we find. Our scientists will definitely think of it, and we have also, that is the thing where the public support is needed, public participation is needed. So on the one hand, we find that it's a progressive way. Resurgent Bharath is there. Youngsters are really fond of being Indian. They always speak of the patriotic sense, and so it is there. Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh believes in overall development of it, holistic development. It's not an organization of a group in the society. It's not an organization of a sect in a society. It is an organization of Hindu society as a whole, no exception to it, and no theory of deletion or elimination is there. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarvajana hitaya, sarvajana sukhaya. Take the energy of people and organize it for the service to the society. More than 1,70,000 Seva projects are being run by Swayamsevak of RSS. Right from the big hospitals to the Ekal Vidyalaya, where only one single teacher with a budget of 1 lakh rupees for one school, more than 60,000 schools are being run. This I am not just boasting it, because a social organization should also not boast itself. But it's a fact. It's a society by the organized society. The concept of Hindutva that RSS pleads is also not related to any religious concept. It's not a religion in the mind of RSS when RSS speaks of Hinduism, Hindutva. It's a larger concept. It's a concept related to our culture. It's a concept related to our cultural history. It's a concept related to all the counts of patriotism of our nation. We have some special things to give to the world. But there has been a practice for decades together that anybody speaking about Hindutva is considered as something anti-Islam and anti-Muslim, anti-Christian. It's not so, not at all. And therefore, there are some political intentions. Let us ignore those political intentions. But speaking in sincere terms, we can say that RSS believes in the collective strength to resurge our motherland. Mata bhumihi putroham prithivya. This land is a mother for us. And land is not a piece of land only. It is a mother for us, and therefore I am a son of it. I have to perform my duties being a son. This emotional integration is the only inspiration for service, for patriotism, for the united country. Whenever I get an opportunity to visit Tamil Nadu, I remember the tall gopurams standing there with grandeur and the sense of diversity. When we speak of diversity, naturally a sentence comes that there is unity in diversity. Unfortunately, our gopurams who are representing diversity, in practice these diversities are becoming divisibilities. One has to take care that diversity is diversity, it's a part of unity. The sense of unity is reflected in every diversity. Putting diversities is not bad. Creating war amongst diversities is a bad thing. So Tamil Nadu has got this. The dynasties of Pallavas, the dynasties of Pandyas, dynasties of Cholas, they have set a number of examples in the history. And that history is not of only 10, 15 or 100 years, it is of centuries together. Kanyakumari, where the Swami Vivekananda sat for 3 nights and 3 days, and after attaining the enlightenment, we found the speech of Chicago, which is all the time inspiring and motivating as a result of his tapasya. That is Tamil Nadu. It has gathered the momentum for the social reforms, and therefore Tamil Nadu is famous in the world. Sant Tiruvalluvar, Nayanmar, Alvars, Subramanyam Bharati. These are the people who had created the history. In Sangha, every day in Ekatmata Stotra, they are remembered. They are remembered with great pride. This is emotional integration that we have. Tamil Nadu has contributed to the freedom movement of our country. Many of the people from Tamil Nadu were in the National Army of Subhash Chandra Bose. Very less number of people know it. And it has created a tradition of Veera Matas also, like Sashir Ki Rani. Recently the Padma Bhushan is given to a lady social reformist from Tamil Nadu. we have peculiarity of every state. But when a state stands against another state, that becomes a problem. And the concept of our national unity, that all the states are equal and they formulate the country. Their specialities intact. We have to develop that unity, we have to develop that integration. Resurgent Barath will be a permanent result when we consider this sense of unity. I wish that everyone sitting here on the dais and in the audience has a prime duty to protect the interest and to protect the philosophy of united together for the service to the society. I am really thankful to the organizers for inviting me, and I am thankful to Dr. Sridhar Ji that he has explained the economic aspect so aptly before us that a very condensed speech can also be a long way guidance for us. Thank you very much.
Next, we will have the much awaited speech by our chief guest, Shri Sridhar Vembu Ji.
First of all, I want to thank all of the assembled dignitaries here, and I also want to thank all of you for coming on a Sunday morning here for this, to listen to me speak here. Yes. The topic Resurgent Barath, this is a topic that I've been probably thinking about for maybe 38 years of my 50 years, ever since maybe at the age of maybe 12. I realized that we are a poor country. That's when it kind of occurred to me, dawned on me. And I used to ask my school teacher, what is the meaning of being a poor country? And I literally asked that question. So, because I didn't know what a rich country is. So what is then a poor country, right? So my entering business had a lot to do with that. I am not a natural businessman. In a different world, I am a scientist, probably a mathematician. Even now, that's probably what I enjoy the most. So business is not some natural born activity for me. But I realized at some point that if we don't get into particularly technology businesses, our country will actually forever be a dependent country. There was something I realized probably around 95, 96 when I was working in Qualcomm. In fact, my brother Kumar, who also runs a company in Velachery now, he and I used to talk about this a lot. That there's so many of us are in the US, we are coming, but India itself still remains technologically well behind in this. We are working in leading edge technology in the US, but India itself is not benefiting from all of this. And we have, of course, 1 billion people. It's not enough to export 5 million or 3 million people and feel good about it. That's what I remember thinking about this a lot. And I'm happy to say that this last 25 years has been an interesting journey where we have actually built a company along those principles. But I'm also, one more thing I'll say, I would have liked to see a lot more companies like us. In fact, when Prasad said we are the largest SaaS company, I'm not even actually proud of it, because we should have 100 companies like us in India for the scale of 1,000 companies like us. I mean, a single Japan or Korea has a lot more companies that they have produced than India has produced. And that is going to be my primary topic today. And it's fundamentally, it is about what kind of economic policies, economic strategies we should adopt as a country to get these results. And this, in particularly our Western trained economists, particularly I have a pet peeve with the Indian economists who come from the West to dole out advice to us, which is very common in Delhi, right? They'll be Indian born, they left India and they get a PhD. Well, I could be one of them, but I got an engineering PhD, so I cannot be responsible for economics. And then they will appoint themselves as experts on India. The truth is, they actually never spent one moment in actually India as adults. And that advice mostly is wrong-headed, in my opinion. In other words, if you have a Columbia or Harvard or Yale economist coming and rolling an advice, you can be pretty sure they don't actually understand India. But they'll say economic laws are the same regardless of country. But having worked in this for 25 years, I'll tell you, your sociology, your culture, your particular social arrangements, all that have a very strong bearing on economics. Economics cannot be separated from any of these things. And yet, because of that advice, and this is true even under the present government, this is not about political party, this has been going on for a long time, that we have taken this advice. And this is exactly the advice the Japanese or the Taiwanese or the Koreans and the later day Chinese more recently, none of them took their advice, you have to remember. And what exactly is it? I mean, I'll give you an example. In Zoho itself, our own managers, one of them are here. They know one thing. When we start producing some software, very complicated software like Zoho Mail or whatever, initially we will produce a prototype that won't be very good actually, but I mandate that we use it. Then we use it, we suffer through it, we have to suffer through it. Often we have suffered through a lot of our own software for years. It gets better, it gets better, it gets better. Only after maybe 5 years or 10 years of that grit that you actually produce something that can stand up to the global competition. And all of the advanced technologies, your smartphone today, your MRI machines, to your planes, all of them have that same characteristic today. That you have to suffer through maybe 5, 10 years minimum, maybe 15 years to get to that R&D level where, for example, if you want bullet trains, it's a minimum 10-year project to be able to match, even come close to what the Japanese have. Yet, our foreign trained economists will tell you, you don't even attempt it. Japan already has it, just buy it from them. And then later on, we'll turn around and say, well, we run a massive trade deficit year after year after year. We'll bridge the gap with maybe remittances. We send our labor abroad, our skilled people abroad, and they will send us money so that we can afford this. This kind of economics does not work, actually. It does not work. In fact, I always said this, our present economic difficulties are not due to this particular tax code or that particular small issues. Japan has higher taxes than we do. China has higher taxes, or fairly high taxes. These are not issues. Germany has high taxes. It's not that I want high taxes. I mean, I like to pay lower taxes too, but I'm just saying those are not the reasons why we have not developed all this. There has to be a more fundamental root cause, and I will submit to you the fundamental reason underneath is that we have to have businesses that invest in the long term for the good of the country, not just good of themselves. It's also good for look, I have done very well in business, but I've always also thought that this is important for India to get this know-how. People, obviously we cannot produce everything, but we are 1.3 billion people and 27 million babies are born every year. In fact, on Thursday I was talking with a leading industry analyst in the US and I said, do you know the scale of the population difference? We produce 27 million babies. Americans manage 4 million babies. Do you know what that means? We can give you 4 million a year and not break a sweat. They were shocked. They didn't actually know. Most people don't know these number differences, how much it matters. At our scale, at our size, we have to invest in every sector of industry. We cannot be dependent because we have a vast population and they need jobs. That is what really it comes to. And a lot of our software, I'll tell you, was produced by people. In fact, I would say, I'm very proud to say this. Approximately 50% of our engineers are not well versed in English. And I'm very proud of the fact. We actually do not put English as a requirement for hiring an engineer. And I myself studied in intermediate school till 10th standard. I strongly, in fact, one of the policies I would like the government to adopt is mandate that our children study in their mother tongue. At least to something that is important. Because you go to Japan, absolutely everything is in Japanese. You go to Germany, absolutely everything is in German. And France, same way, right? China. I've been to China and you stop a random person even in a city like Beijing and ask for direction. most likely they won't be able to understand it in English. It's true even in Beijing in China, all the major cities, and leave alone the countryside. And yet they have produced 5G technology now. And Chinese language is a lot harder to introduce technology in than Tamil or Hindi or any of our languages. In fact, 100 years ago, China had a movement to get rid of their character set and introduce Western character set because they thought that our character set will prevent our development. There was actually active debates in China during the time of what's his name, Sun Yat-sen era. They actually had that issue going on. Because I've studied all this because I understood how is it that they stuck with their language? Why is it that we are not able to? And this goes back to the root of who are we as a nation? Who are we as a people? Do we take pride in ourselves? And I go to travel to villages. I actually spent 3 months in a village near Tenkasi. I stayed actually on the farm. And I could see the low self-esteem directly coming from the fact that I don't speak English. That person could actually make a good engineer. But since he cannot speak English, he actually has a very poor self-image of himself. And this is pervasive in our country. We actually, in cities, we don't realize this, but it's true massively in rural areas. Even Tamil Nadu is 50% rural. This is a highly urban state, supposedly. All India is what, 65% rural still. And this thing that, and there are some, again, Western trained economists declare we have to move everyone to the city. I don't think they understand the scale of our cities already and what is happening to our cities. We ran out of water last year here. And what will happen if we add another 10 million to Chennai, another 20 million to Chennai? I don't think there is a holistic appreciation of all these ideas. So, and I actually am taken upon ourselves to use broadband to spread the jobs around in smaller places. Because we know, because we run our own Zoho University program, we know how we can train the skills. That's another thing that one thing that I encourage all companies to do is invest heavily in their own training. Again, you might think it's an original idea I invented. I learned from the Japanese and the Germans. Those two countries have really, really good apprenticeship programs. When a Japanese company makes a state-of-the-art camera or electronics or car or any of those, the people who are producing this did not have excellent education as we would consider it that way. In fact, most often they have a very, very average education. Japanese universities are not very well famous. Only one or two of them. In fact, our IITs will probably outrank many Japanese universities. In spite of that, how are they able to do it? Because the industry itself takes charge of the skill creation. The Toyota and Honda and Sony take general graduates and put them through their own system and they become long-term really good at what they do. This is exactly the same thing we observed in Zoho. The same phenomena where if you look at any area of technology we work on very complicated technologies now. Almost everything was built from the ground up, from scratch. We actually started at the very bottom of the ladder and step by step by step. This idea itself, because I studied Japanese history extensively, and I said this is the correct solution for India, I concluded, because Japan was an overpopulated country with massive, small island packed with people. And unfortunately, instead of learning from Japan or Taiwan or Korea, we have imported a lot of methodologies thanks to our Western trained or US trained economists. We have actually imported a lot of the programs from the US, and this is a problem for me. Because it does not work. What works for America cannot work for us. Given our culture, given our population, given our ways of life, all of these, it really cannot work. There is not a universal law of economics here. Economics is really sociology and culture, and all of them have to be taught holistically. But today we actually don't have it yet, and this is something that this is what my own mission is to spread this idea that we have to invest in core technologies, but we have to do it our own unique way, and we also have to reduce our dependence for core technologies. This is something that any major country, like Germany, thinks strategically about this. And of course, China is thinking strategically about this. Japan is thinking the same way about this. We have to think the same way. It is not that we should not trade. Absolutely, we should trade. But the trade should be on a more equal basis. That we will send you rice at iron ore, we'll get all the sophisticated products, is a colonial economics. And we know we have already done this. If we run deficit year after year after year in our trade, eventually we'll get another East India Company. It's inevitable because we are piling up debt, foreign debt, external debt. See, there's a fundamental difference between internal debt we owe to each other as Indians versus debt we owe abroad. And yet, the globalized economists do not see any distinction between that. They think the debt we owe to China or Germany or US is the same kind as the debt we owe inside. They are not the same. Because for the debt we owe them, we have to give them something of value in return. If we don't produce anything that they want to buy, that debt cannot be repaid. We have to give ourselves. And I used to joke that we get all the advanced goods, we give up our first wants to other countries. And this is actually a true statement, because if you go see, so many of our talent we have exported abroad, and then we celebrate when one of our talent gets appointed CEO in a Western company. That talent could have produced 10,000, 20,000 jobs here, and we desperately need those jobs. Desperately need those jobs. And in fact, this is a lecture I gave in Silicon Valley recently to an Indian gathering. I said, every single one of you who actually have made money, have done well, all good. But there is a town, there is a village in India that is seriously missing you. And keep that in mind. I tell them, keep that in mind, because that town, that village has no leadership. Because all the leadership left. This is, I call it the topsoil layer. If you remove the topsoil layer in agriculture, the land becomes infertile. We are exporting the topsoil layer of our country, and we take pride in it. We take pride in the achievement. That's good, but the topsoil layer we should fight to keep here. And that is actually the fundamental priority, and that requires not merely, this is why when people ask me about a budget opinion, I say I have no opinion. Because these are not, rejigging the tax code here, passing that incentive there, is not what is going to address our problem. We need a generation of entrepreneurs who put the country first, who take our needs. And I often say, it does not require self-sacrifice. I mean, I have done very well, our employees have done very well, we live well. It's just that we live with some moderation, some idea of where we are, which country are we in. And, do we need to import the lifestyle of a billionaire lifestyle from somewhere else? Our country has certain, sociology and culture, all of this. We have to live in accordance with it. So that is what I promote. And we can live well. I mean, within this we can live well. I live well. I mean, I don't consider myself living in poverty at all. I live well. But we have to keep the whole interest of the country, and that is how I invest. For example, Zoho has now started a medical equipment, because medical equipment, 80% of it is imported today. If you go to hospital, Apollo or anywhere, all the advanced stuff they use on us, all imported. And we also have a semiconductor 4G, which is going to 5G, because all imported. All of this we are sustaining the R&D because, not because I expect to make a lot of money out of it, but I strongly believe our country needs all that expertise. The engineers who are working on all these, they are a vital national asset, long term. And again, this vital national asset is not just public sector or government, it is also private sector is a vital national asset. We have to think that way. So that is how I think, and I hope to spread that idea. And I meet a lot of youngsters who are inspired by this, they want to do it. So that is what I hope these events like this can inspire more people to do it. But the benefits are immense. The psychic benefit, the spiritual benefit is enormous. And I actually get a lot of undeserved praise for it. I owe it to our employees, our senior managers. Every single one of them have put in those 15, 20 years, 25 years. Like Prasad who introduced, he himself is 22 years in Zoho. And people like him have built this company. And because of that, putting the country first. They put the country first. So in a way, I actually think of the company history itself that way. That these men and women put the country first and they stayed and they really built all this. And because of each one of them could create 200, 300 jobs directly because of their own contribution. And we have the layer of maybe 100 people who each created those jobs, 50, 100 jobs. That is why we reached this level now. And this is what I tell in Silicon Valley. I tell Indian diaspora there, I tell them, your village, your town is missing you. You have made your money. Think of the motherland. Think of that. So with that I will in my speech and later I'll be happy to answer questions. Okay, I don't want to take more of your time this morning. Okay, thank you.